Hi, Mark Goldstein, Chairman and co-founder of BackOps, and we're going to talk about the back office for an hour, and I promise it will be an hour. Sometimes people don't want to talk about the back office for more than 5 minutes. But we're going to have a fun hour and show you about what we're doing and how it's different. A little bit about me. I call myself bruised, tarred, and feathered a little bit. I've started about 10 companies. I started BackOps with my wife, who was my CFO for 3 of those companies. And I have stories about what didn't happen in my back office, what should have happened, what could have happened. And before I got my wife, a lot of the stuff happened that shouldn't have happened. And so she decided, came to me and said, I'm going to start a company to support other founding CEOs. And that was over 2 years ago. And subsequently, we've grown BackOps to supporting almost 80 companies today. And we've got a team in San Francisco of over 20 people, actually 25 people. But as importantly, across the country, we now have over 50 work-at-home moms that are full-time employees that are providing a lot of the services. So we're going to talk about what we're doing at BackOps and how it's different. We started BackOps with a very clear objective, which is to help entrepreneurs focus on what they were really great at doing. Early stage company executives simply have, in a lot of cases, in their minds, bigger and better things to think about than just the back office. They're thinking about iterating product. They're thinking about going out and getting clients. They're thinking about growth. And a lot of times the back office is thought about as the boat anchor. Well, we're all about changing that. It's not a boat anchor. It's just as important as everything else here. And the truth is that starting entrepreneurs, later stage companies need to be thinking about the back office as much as they're thinking about growing their front office of their business. So what is BackOps? BackOps is a complete managed back office. We charge based on a monthly subscription, so we don't pay by the hour. You don't have to license any software. You don't have to hire any people. We completely outsource it and operate it off of our cloud and using our cloud-sourced network of work-at-home moms around the country. It's really designed for companies that are trying to think lean and think smart. I mean, obviously the lean startup trend around the valley is critical. We have 2 types of clients. We have the early stage clients that are basically just think of a lean startup model. We have later stage companies that want to be as efficient and want to grow as quickly as possible and don't want to make mistakes. Another big trend going on is Uber. So we think about Uber all the time. I know everyone just loves how Uber this, Uber that. The idea of renting and not buying things. That's sort of our model too. Obviously Odesk and TaskRabbit are the same. We think of BackOps as sort of like Uber, where you're renting but not buying your back office. But we're different from Uber. The difference is you might not like your driver when you get into your limo. In the case, you better like your back office team. You better like your accountant. You better like the woman who's running HR, the woman who's running finance. So in our case, you need ongoing relationships, and that's part of what we're also doing. We're not just an exchange where we could hook you up with, someone who will do your books. Here's an accountant that basically can charge you, N dollars a month and show up for a few hours. It's not about that. That's how problems occur. Our customers want 24/7 access and support, and they want us to really cover their backs. And that was one of the reasons we came up with the name BackOps. We've got this network of nationwide whip-smart moms that are out there. And when you think of moms, moms are never wrong. And moms are the perfect people to be running your back office. And all of these moms are they've all had former full-time jobs. They've all, a minimum of 10 years of experience. And now they have dual priorities, one of which is they want to stay relevant and really valuable in what it is they do. Secondly, they have a family. And so we're giving them the opportunity to work from home. And we've built all the technology at BackOps so they can work from home and they can support some of the most exciting companies in the country, in the world, in fact, by working at home and where they really can make an amazing contribution. It's a win-win. Our retention rate is super strong because these women love their jobs and our companies love their moms. Now before BackOps, this is sort of the story I like, which is how would you put together your back office? Well, it required a lot of stuff. First of all, when we talk about the back office, we're talking about human resources, we're talking about accounting, we're talking about finance. And what that meant is you need to get software in human resources, in accounting, and finance. You need to get servers. You need to make that work. You needed to pick vendors. You needed to pick vendors across categories that you probably didn't have the experience in. You would hire consultants to help. You'd hire part-time people to help. And it was pretty daunting. So there were a lot of mistakes to be made. And then sometimes the people you would hire weren't as good as you thought they were, or they wouldn't last, or they had other priorities. Our view was to really streamline a lot of that. And basically, when you think about how we're approaching this, is we put together a dashboard, and we've basically, if you're a CEO of a company, it's now going to take you 15 minutes a week to basically see what it is that I have to do in my company and to run the back office of my company. And here are some quick screenshots of what you're going to get, and I'm going to obviously get into the product and show you and answer whatever questions we want to go through. But you can do it from your phone, you can do it from really anything. And first thing you'll see, how much money do I have? What are the assets? What's my burn rate? What bills do I need to pay? What expenses do I need to pay? What open account receivables do I have? What payables do I have? And I can click down, and we're going to get into any of this. But we've basically collapsed just tons of different applications behind the scenes that are managing all this. And traditionally, what CEOs or COOs of companies would have access to all these tools, understand all the passwords, know how to use the applications, and get into all of this. And what we've done is we've scraped and we've API'd and we put together behind the scenes now north of 30 different applications and put together dashboards. So it's really, really easy to view what's important to going on in your back office. And then what's important, you can basically, not only can you see it, so it's not like you're just a subscriber, but you're also publishing, so you're approving through the process. So here I'm now going through open accounts receivable and HR. Who did I hire? Who did I fire? Everything is sort of integrated into this sort of dashboard, which I'm going to show you. And behind the scene, we have this network of experienced moms that are putting it all together. So while you in the company are experiencing this very simplified dashboard that's very easy to understand that you can access everywhere, we have this network of moms that are putting everything together. And that's sort of what's really neat about this, is that we pair our moms, and we call them riveters, because we think of Rosie the Riveter as sort of our patron saint. So anyone who works in the company is a riveter. And we pair our riveters with companies based on their expertise, based on where they live, based on their desire, based on their availability of time. And these riveters become dedicated and almost like employees to our client companies. And here are some pictures of some of our riveters. Clients, we've got about 80 clients now all around the country. I would say 30–40% of them are in the Bay Area. We've been working with AngelList for well over 2 years. Companies that could be Series A funded, Series B funded, some are Series C funded, all across the board. Our focus right now is tech-oriented companies. So a company that basically is using the internet, using technology as the sort of backbone of how they're being different. They would appreciate BackOps in part because they're probably a little similar to us. They've got a lot of engineers. They know they have to treat their engineers really, really well. They want to basically build systems. They appreciate the cloud. They appreciate what the cloud can do. And that's our core client. We're now moving also into nonprofits, into other categories later in the year. But if you look at the bulk of our companies now, they're tech companies. So I'm going to get into sort of the application, how it works. And I'm going to show you a few things. Then really open it up to questions and hopefully make it as interactive as possible. This screen up here is really we call it our ecosystem that sort of reflects all the assets we've built. I showed you the piece in the middle, the dashboard piece. What we also have are portals for vendors, portals for customers, portals for contractors. Everything, when we think about the back office, the most important thing is it goes paperless, and we make it go self-service, so that everyone can get into it, employees can get into it, they'll have their own portal, and basically data gets shared around our ecosystem of applications really, really easily. And data gets entered in once into one application, and it gets populated and propagated across the whole network of our whole ecosystem. And this is what's really cool. because when you think about what's happened historically is bulk of the costs in the back office were data reentry. We're finding pieces of paper. We're organizing paper. We're doing all of these sort of tedious, repetitive tasks that would really crank up the time. And historically, people would buy a lot of their back office services from hourly employees and who had an incentive to crank up the time because that's what they do. They get paid by the hour. In our case, we don't get paid by the hour. We actually get paid by the employee. So we focus on efficiency, making things as efficient as possible. And every day we go in there and we say, how do we make this smarter? How do we make this faster? How do we make this better? And so that we can spend less time doing it, and also our companies can spend a lot less time thinking about it. So it ends up being a big win, because the less time you're thinking about the back office, the more you're thinking about the front office and growing your company. So let's get into the app, and kaboom. So let's. This is you could go to our webpage. It's getbackops.com. Talk about really what it is we do. But I'm going to show you a few things in sort of a logical order. The first thing that we do with any company is we get you live. Now, getting live, historically, when you would hire a new accountant or hire an HR person or whatnot, they would say, well, we'll get you, and give us 30 days, 60 days. We'll come in and we'll integrate all the data. We'll look at the relationships, and we'll make all of this work. We get companies live in as little as 3 days, 7 days, 10 days. And what we do is we've created an onboarding portal. And it's a two-way portal where everyone comes in and basically is prompted to enter in as much information as they have. Now we'll assign a team, we call it a SWAT team of riveters, that basically gets you live really quickly. So as you go through, the portal here, information gets entered. As information gets entered into this portal, it could be information on your team, again, your address, banking account. So we need Wi-Fi is cooperating. Credit card information. Let's see what we got here. All right, there we go. Documents. We're going to basically take your whatever banking relationship you have, we'll put it into the database. We'll take your employee relationships, whatever you have, put it into our database. We'll send riveters to your office. We'll have scanning parties. We'll do absolutely everything we can to take every piece of paper that you have and make it go away. Everything becomes electronic. Everything is digitized. And this way, we can all work remotely. You can work remotely. And in the future, all information also comes in a digital fashion. We'll convert whatever customer relations you have that might be traditional invoice and paper-based relationships, we'll turn them into digital relationships. And so by doing so, we've increased the efficiency of how you're running your business, but also increasing the efficiency of how you're going to get paid. Your customers will appreciate this because they know exactly when they're going to get paid. They're going to know exactly when was the last time they're paid. They're going to not have to pick up the phone as much. And it's going to create a much more efficient sort of ecosystem between how you work with your customers, how you work with your contractors, how you work with your employees, and how you work with all of your vendors. So we go through really this entire process. We have a library where we'll take every contract you have. We're going to upload it. You're going to upload it. And we're going to create this common ontology that basically keeps every contract that you have, every relationship with your employee, all of your financial records in a very consistent, simple format. This is really invaluable, and especially invaluable when things like financial events come on, when you're trying to raise more money for your company, or tax time, when you have to file taxes and your tax accountant ends up running around looking for random pieces of paper, and 3/4 of what you're paying your tax accountant is they're trying to find the paper. In our case, we have everything sort of tax ready. You can basically work with us, and we typically can file taxes for well less than $1,000 a year. What else is organized? If there's a merger opportunity that the company has, we have financial due diligence all in one organized way that the lawyers can access, that we can access, that the acquirer can access. And a lot of this is really invaluable way that how we've streamlined the whole process. So once we've basically got everything into our system, and this is sort of the onboarding approach, you would basically submit, everything gets uploaded, we put it into our database, and it's accessible and available through our applications. So that's the first thing that happens is we grab all the data that you have in whatever types of relationships, and now we're ready to roll. Step 2 of the process is how we're basically going to display it to the CEO or to the CEO. And this is our core dashboard. And I'm going to open this up and make it look bigger. So assume you're Tom Selleck. You're the CEO of Acme Corporation. This is what you're going to get every week. And what you're going to get every week is you're going to see how much money do I have. You can break it down. You can look at expenses. You can look at revenue. You can look at your balance sheet. There's analytics in there. You can go in there and you can see, you get a message from your riveter, who in this case is Sam. She says, "Hi, Tom. Your brief is presented below. I don't have much to report this week, but contact me if you have any questions." Now, she's typically always available on Skype. In this case, she's available right now on Skype, or obviously email, and you have her phone number. And she's just not available to chat right now. Again, this could be on a Sunday. This could be Sunday night. This could be Friday evening. Whenever the CEO or the approver wants to read their dashboard, their riveter is available to them. What's on this dashboard? Well, first of all, what's really important is how much cash you have in the company. So what we've done is we basically have grabbed all this information from not only your bill paying system and QuickBooks and your bank, and we've consolidated it in a way that we say, here's all of your bank accounts, which we're helping you co-manage, and here's how much cash you have available. In this case, it's a pretty healthy company. They've got $4 million. And they've got, their typical payments are about $66,000 a week. So needless to say, they've got a pretty good runway. If we've taken an average, here's a 4-week average, a 12-week average, and we basically are saying to them, well, things continue, on a present trend, you're going to have almost 30 months of cash. That's the most important thing that any CFO, COO, or someone would look at in a company, which, how much cash do I have? That's sort of the panic event. Then it comes down to the next thing, which is fund transfers. Are there any fund transfers to be made? In this case, they're not. Fund transfers might be going from one account to another. They could be wires to employees and anything that they might have to approve. Bills to pay. And so in this case, I have a bill to pay for a company called FinScience. And it's a $10,000 bill. And I can go right in there and access the bill and get, with Granular, get the details. And what's really neat about this is actually sitting in, we use an application called Bill.com, but we've integrated Bill.com into our application. So I'm, as the CEO, I don't have to go into Bill.com. It's sitting right there. It's sitting just in the dashboard. And that's just an example of sort of how we work. So everything is brought together into one place. And here are all the other bills I have to pay, and I can go and I can click them, collect them, get information on them I want. Here's bills we're suggesting that you monitor, and why are you monitoring them? In a lot of cases, these are recurring bills. So you don't have to have these approvals. You've already given us the approval to pay them. But in the case, if you wanted to go in there and monitor the bill, you could. Expense reports. What are expense reports I have to pay? Some expense reports can be, this case is pretty straightforward expenses. We don't even have any backup. What we use for expense reporting is we use Expensify. Again, CEO or the CEO, no one has to go into Expensify. We're basically consolidated it, putting it into one place. So now we've looked at, okay, those are the expenses I have to repay. Those are the bills I have to pay. I could just go and pay them. Or I could hold, or I could reject them. Or I could just sort of say, show me the history. And these are the history of every bill that I've ever paid. And what's really neat here is, even if you could get this application, we would call going into other applications, knowing how Expensify works, knowing how QuickBooks works, knowing how Bill.com works. And would the CEO or the CEO do that? Does he have time to do that? It's doubtful. In this case, what we've done is we've said, no, all the information is at your fingertips, and we've put it in an order in a way that we think makes sense for you. And you go right in there and you pay. And you pay, or you can hold, or you could reject specific bills. And that's sort of how, on a weekly basis, you would go through the process of paying your bills. So this is a weekly process, because typically bills get paid with a weekly cadence. And what we'll do is we'll basically push this dashboard out to you on Thursdays. Typically, it's paid on Friday. Our riveters then go in. This information is sent to them, and they'll pay their bills before the end of the weekend. Bills get paid, and you're moving on. Then what happens on a monthly basis is one of our riveters, who's a CPA, goes in there and balances your books. So the books automatically get balanced. So there's this cadence every week of bill paying, and there's a cadence every month of book balancing. And then every quarter, there's typically another cadence, which is stakeholder reporting. because most of our companies have board of director meetings, or they have to have information sent out to Google Ventures or other people to sort of show what's the financial situation, and we put these automated reports together. And that's another thing that we do. Again, all of this stuff gets automated, and this is a lot of the stuff that CEOs just hate to do. CEOs and CFOs. This is a lot of the sort of the mundane type of work that keeps them away from their growing their business, which is their reporting. And we, in an automated way, handle this. I'm going to continue just to go down here. Vendor credits. Oh, good news. We got a few credits. Nothing really big, but it's always good to see. Here's some open accounts receivable. And in this case, Living Social. What a surprise. Hasn't paid their bill. But we can get in and we can see all these, whatever is open receivables, what's the current status. If you use Salesforce, we do Salesforce integration. So if you use that to sort of in a way with your sales team is managing, using it for sales infrastructure. Again, we're sucking all that data also in from Salesforce. No one, the CEO, the CFO, no one has to go into Salesforce. No one has to get into these other apps. Here's one quick view of how all of this works. In this case, we did collect from Intuit. That's good news. And that's sort of the accounting side of things. Now, what about the HR side of things? Well, on the HR side, it's really interesting. I'm going to show you in great detail how this whole thing works as an example of sort of the workflows that we put together and when we think about managing a back office and automating it and making it streamlined and reducing time and drudgery. But in this case, there's 2 offer letters that are ready for signature. Karina K. Young, and there's we need a new hire approval for Jake. We haven't given him an offer letter. We're just looking for an approval. But again, you could come right in. I could click, sign the offer letter. Oh,
this is Kristen Goldstein.
If you're lucky, my wife will show up. But if you're not, you'd see the offer letter, and I'll show you how that works in a second. But the point is, you have HR as a part of the process. You have accounting part of the process, and it's all really tightly integrated. Next thing I'm going to go to is I'm going to show you how this HR piece works. And we call this this is the demo of our HR portal. And I'm going to go through a process, pretend I'm the CEO right now, and I'm going to click and log into my portal. And again, here we are again. And we're going to go just to the HR section. And in the HR section, it says we have a new offer. There's a new offer request. I want to basically make a new hire. I'm going to go in through this process, put in the information about the employee I'm trying to hire. Now, if it was a hiring manager who's doing it, the hiring manager also has access to this. So it really depends on who is making the hire. We'll go in and we'll submit that. Fill out the form. Submit it in PDF format. Looks good. We'll preview it. We create this automated offer letter on behalf of Acme Corporation. We're going to give you this position of employment. And Brian, we'd love to hire you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once the offer letter looks good, we just put it together, go right through. And we'll go next part. That's interesting. There was the offer. And we're going to go right through. And where's my signature? There it is. Next. OK. So now the offer letter has been created. I'm going to submit the offer letter, and then we're going to sort of show you how the workflow works. It says, great, that offer letter has now been sent to the new hire. It's going to be put in their email box. Once the offer letter is accepted, the new hire has gone through a process and accepted the offer letter. They're going to basically be introduced to our onboarding portal, where his name is Welcome Brian. Congratulations. We want to onboard you to the company. Now, there might have been some workflow in the past where there could have been approvals that if the hiring manager had made the offer, the CEO would have had to approve it. He would have had to approve it in his dashboard. But the point is there's no paper coming around. And all of this is happening in real time. And what our companies really love about this, especially our tech companies, is that we're onboarding engineers in hours. There's no paperwork. Who has the offer letter? Where is it? Did the basic law firm put together, where's the template? How many shares? Did the shares get approved? Did the offer get approved? Did the client approve? Everything is basically happening behind the scenes. And so as a result, there's a lot of efficiency. And engineers are accepting offers a lot more quickly, and they're being onboarded a lot more quickly. And there's a lot of satisfaction in this. So now I'm Brian. What a great first experience to have in the company. Welcome, Brian. And while Google probably has this type of experience, most of the earlier stage companies don't. So, hi, Brian. Congratulations. You fill in the information, general information about yourself. We'll click to fill out the form. Click to continue. Contact information. What we're doing behind the scenes is basically pre-populating a ton of different forms. So Brian is now going to go here, enter in about 8 pieces of information, and we've automatically filled out his I-9. We basically filled out his, his state tax request. We filled out his W-4. We filled out proprietary information to the company, and no more getting those packs of information, and that you'd have to fill out in triplicate. Everything is done, one time here. It's all done in a, in an EchoSign format, or in this case, we just moved to right signature. And we said to Brian, congratulations, you've now filled out 8 pieces of information. You're hired. And we're going to submit the information. Nice work. And now we've automated him through payroll. We've automated the first step of him being a company. And effectively, whenever his start date, whatever was reflected in that offer letter, we're waiting for him on that day. And what's really nice about this is we wanted to show one example of how we onboard people. Same thing for benefits. Same thing for everything, which is, there's a portal. Someone goes in the portal, answer 5 pieces of information, present the alternatives to them. They approve it or deny it. The information gets sent to behind the scenes, our riveter, who could be an accounting riveter, who could be an HR riveter, who could be a finance riveter. They approve it. They make it happen. And there's no paperwork that has to sort of go around. And it's just it's really a lot more efficient than the old way of doing things. And now I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to get out of here and go back to the PowerPoint. I think I was right here. Okay, so what I've sort of showed you is a few things. How do we configure? How do we get live quickly? How does someone register? As you saw, an example of a new employee registering for being part of a company. Imagine a vendor going through the same thing with a vendor portal. The dashboards that a CEO might see. The dashboard that an employee might see. Then I want to talk a little bit about what's going behind the scenes. So our riveters are actually doing a lot of work. So while the companies don't see a lot of this, we're managing your vendors, your employees, your service providers, agencies. In some cases, depends on what you want, we can help manage your stakeholders and your customers. And we'll focus on a lot of the day-to-day, the mundane work. And then we'll bubble up these weekly dashboards for you to review and to approve, and then we'll do it again next week. So what happens is, within the company, a lot of these activities that would basically just draw in a lot of the resources and the energy and the sort of the efforts of the company are now being sort of thrown to us and to our systems, and the company is able to focus on selling more, iterating product, and basically improvements in the market, being really a front office company, less of a back office company. This chart is just an example of what's going on behind the scenes. I've showed you dashboards. We have over 35 different applications, and here's some examples of some that we're working with behind the scenes. So we use QuickBooks for accounting. We didn't write our own accounting system. We think QuickBooks is great for what we do. And one of the reasons it's great is that there are hundreds of thousands of people in America that know how to use it. So we have our own version of QuickBooks Enterprise that's hosted on our servers, that we can hire moms that all know how to use QuickBooks and right away can come in and basically do the accounting on your company. We use Bill.com for bill paying. We use Expensify for expenses. We use Bamboo as our HRIS system. We can use Paychecks or Zen Payroll for benefits, and it really depends which one is right for you. We use Box to sort of warehouse a lot of our data. We use Harvest and an integrated way to do time reporting and to do some select invoicing. We've integrated with Salesforce. But again, these are apps that the CEO never sees. He doesn't have to go into any of these apps. We've API'd all of them. We're pulling it all in. Our riveters are using these apps. And these are all best of breed apps. They're supporting tens, if not more, thousands of different companies. And the beauty of also using these apps is that there's a standard way in which these apps accept data. And any app in the industry, because these are sort of the leading apps across the board, has an import and export feature to these. So for whatever reason, if your company gets acquired, if you wanted for whatever reason to bring in your back office in-house, it's really easy for you to do that. We don't have any proprietary data infrastructure. You're using all the standard apps. All the apps and all the data is in the name of the company. So you own your data. We don't own your data. And so we don't have any of the issues that historically people have had with outsourcing, which is, oh, can I get my data? No, it's your data. It's always your data. All we've done is written an API layer and an analytics layer on top of your data. Now today I'm not even getting into the analytics in terms of what it is we do, because we auto-detect conditions that are going on in your company. We compare them to other companies in your niche. We basically look at comparisons. We spin out graphs. And that's for a later day, and that's sort of like some of the secret sauce that just comes after you've been a BackOps customer for 3 months, once we basically are able to warehouse enough data to have stuff make sense. But what's really neat is all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and you don't see it. We just we basically put these dashboards in front of you. So what do? Accounting. What's involved with accounting? Traditional, it's general ledger setup, it's bookkeeping, it's cash management, it's weekly analysis tools, it's segmented financial statements, it's reconciliations. And reconciliations get very tricky in e-commerce businesses, and we're getting very expert at that. So we know what it means to reconcile multiple payment systems across various different web stores across a multi-channel infrastructure. Vendor portals, customer portals. I showed you the employee portal, but a vendor has a portal and a contractor has a portal. Customers have portals. And that way they know exactly all the data and all the communications from each of these are all saved on their portal, so they don't have to call you. They don't have to call anyone, and everything is there, automatically spits out 1099s. Month-end journal entries. Sometimes systems implementation. Sometimes you have legacy systems that we have to tailor to our infrastructure because you're a more established company. Expense reimbursements, time tracking and billing. These are the features that we sort of work on and what we do on in accounting. A lot of these are traditional accounting features, and a lot of these are features that are the best of breed tools support, and our team is sort of licensed and capable of doing. HR, there's a lot of stuff goes on in HR. Payroll, benefits, insurance procurement, compliance support. We've become quite expert in compliance, and as if you're a raw startup who's just raised some seed money, maybe the last thing you're thinking about is compliance. But after you've raised your Series A and you're into your Series B, and you have your first issue in HR with maybe it was a termination or whatnot, maybe you've gotten a notification, you'll realize how important compliance is. And we do full compliance. We do HR file audit. We help you with onboarding, as I showed you the new hires. We help you with offboarding or terminations. Benefits management, payroll processing, employment agreements drafting. So you're no longer paying your law firms to basically one-off for employment agreements. Everything is templatized within our system. And you'll see a whole bunch of things that'll come together as we basically put together as our HR infrastructure further builds out. But we're now supporting most of our companies in HR, and it's really going well. And we're able to negotiate really, really favorable deals with a lot of our vendors. So we have quantity discounts. As we're now approaching 100 companies and thousands of employees under management, we can get much better deals for benefits. We can get much better deals for payroll. And we're able to facilitate this as opposed to a company working independently. And we know where to go, and we're fully licensed to do this. We are a very, very credible and lower cost alternative to TriNet. And a lot of our companies have come to us, have been PEOs in the past, and no longer want to be PEOs, and we can facilitate that. We're not a PEO, but we can compete against TriNet and Paychex and ADP on all HR and compliance issues. Finance and operations is the third leg of the stool. And what we do in finance and operations is help you with budgeting, forecasting models, board meeting preparation, variance analysis, financing activities, IR, customize KPIs, and we talked about that before a little bit, board and stakeholder communications, e-commerce system configuration, and help you in more traditional operation areas too, because we've got a bunch of ops people, riveters on the team. Our head of operations ran operations at Williams-Sonoma Outlet, and if you've run operations at Williams-Sonoma Outlet, you probably could have a few good ideas on how to help a number of companies here in the Valley. And so she has a whole team that can basically descend upon you and help you out with your internal operations too. We want to be your partner, and we try to act as your partner in whatever you need. And we'll also help you in recruiting and training. Typically, our finance side of things, and you'll see in our pricing, is not charged as a flat fee, because it doesn't need to be. A lot of these are one-off events that happen that need to occur. So how do we price? We price at, for all of really whatever I've described, we price at $250 per employee per month. And we can work with employees companies that have as few as 2 employees. We do have a minimum $1,000 fee, because that's just what it takes to really make our stuff work and to give you the dedicated resources you need. So if you haven't been funded, we probably say wait till you've gotten funded to give us a call. Then we do a lot of the financial activities on a either hourly basis or sort of on a project basis. We prefer project, where we'll basically just define it and say that's going to be $3,000 or that'll be $2,000, and we just get it done. But if you look at sort of a lot of the features that I've lined up, this is sort of how we get paid, and this is where it's innovative, because historically you couldn't basically pay that. You wouldn't be able to buy a back office on a head basis or on a seat basis. And that's what we're doing that's different. We're not charging you by the hour, and we're not basically, you're not hiring an employee. So old days, new days. Old days, to do a back office right, you had to go out and find experienced people. You had to go out and license your software. You had to put it on servers. You had to have a bunch of IT guys configure it for you. You had to have multiple agreements with multiple vendors, and you didn't even know if they were the right vendors. A lot of the times these vendors would come with these part-time people who would then leave, and you would be sort of stuck with a vendor relationship or an inappropriate relationship that you have to unwind. You had to know how all this stuff worked. You had to understand how accounting and HR compliance worked together. And typically that wasn't the core missive of the company. And it was pretty expensive. It is expensive. It would cost you between $75,000 and $250,000 a year if you're just a small company. As you're a larger company, it's going to cost you a lot more. Our view of the back office is sort of like the Uber view. Just like I don't have to own a limo. I don't have to basically have a limo driver working for me full time. In our case, all you need is a phone. You can be a customer of BackOps, and all you need is a phone. You have to be a legal entity, a Skype ID, and for $12,000 a year, your back office can be run for you. And it ends up being one more piece of the puzzle that you can outsource and you can rent, so that you can focus as a company on sort of the one sort of issue that is what your company is going to become famous for. So it's just about focus, and we're going to help you focus. When is BackOps right? BackOps is right really at 2 different points of time, one of which is early stage. You've just raised your seed funding. You might have had a shoebox in the corner. You probably had a part-time person helping you out. You're ready to take the next step. You're now hiring employees. All of a sudden, there's a lot of complication here, and it can drown you, and it doesn't have to. So we can come in there for these greenfield companies, and they're up to speed in a day or 2. We'll set up their banking relationships. We'll give them best vendor pricing across the board. We have these special relationships with banks and some of the vendors I talked about. and the founders can go back and focus on their day jobs. Increasingly, a lot of the companies that are coming to BackOps are a little different though. They're growing stage companies, and they've either raised their A or they've raised their B, and they're looking to sort of take the next level. And that next level might not be hiring a $700,000 a year CFO, because you're not maybe going public next year. You don't need that type of skill. And that's what that type of skill costs in the Valley today. But what you do need is something better than what you have. So we basically can help these companies graduate from their part-time mosaic of vendors and processes and people that they have in place, some of which are part-time, some of which might be full-time. Typically what ends up happening is someone from operations who was an office manager sort of got promoted and finds themselves having to be an accountant, or calling themselves director of finance when they're not licensed, where maybe they should just be a bookkeeper, and that's where the companies can get in trouble. Typically, these are companies that have had, might have problems with systems, might have had an instance of theft, which is surprisingly common in the Valley. And we basically can go in there and basically put together an infrastructure that scales. It's an infrastructure that scales, it's an infrastructure with people that have all done it before, and we can get it live in less than 10 days. And so these companies really want to focus on revenue growth and revenue generation. And this is just getting in the way of their CEO's ability to basically either raise the next round of funding, close the next big deal, or get the support they're looking for from the board. And we enable that. And the expertise is, mistakes really cost at this level, and we can avoid a lot of mistakes. And that's proven to be a big, big part of what we're doing. And these are the types of companies that we're increasingly having a lot of success with. I mentioned live in less than 10 days, and you've seen how we basically populate that configuration portal. We have our team that basically comes in there. We call our onboarding SWAT team. They do an audit. Right now, first thing we'll look at what existing systems that you have. We probably might want to save a lot of the systems that you have in place. They're probably fine. We probably can tailor them, or we can keep them live for some period of time. But we'll do a full assessment. And the full assessment will say, keep this, get rid of this, replace with this, and a series of recommendations of where we think you should go. And those recommendations could be accounting specific, they can be HR specific, they could be finance specific. We convert all your relationships into paperless relationships. We import all of your files and your forms. And then we populate our system and we activate you. And then you get a message from Sam who says, hi Tom, we're ready to go. And that comes in, and then you'll get that in your portal, and everything is ready, and the system, you're on our platform. That's really what go live, and when we think about, this is sort of bad. You don't want to be a frazzled CEO. You don't want to be a frazzled COO or CFO. This is like not how you want to live your life. And this is good, sleeping CEO. It's good to sleep. It's good to have a life. And what we basically do, and that's one of the big things we see from our companies, is that they say we give them a life. We basically allow them to focus on what it is they started their business for in the first place, and not have to basically learn all these new things that they thought were, didn't really have to think about, and finding it was drowning them. Client references are extremely helpful. We're only as good as our last reference. And then one of the most important things we do is we basically say, call somebody you know who's using us. So what's coming near the end, getting to the Q of A part of this is, what's the advantage? What do we see us being different from some of the other approaches? Well, we're always there. While we're giving you a dedicated team of people, when they're on vacation, they're backed up. All your data is in the cloud. All your data is always accessible. And we're going to give you that 24/7 type of support. When you have a problem, you're going to be able to reach one of us because of the way we've basically set up our back-end technology. We use these best-of-breed vendors for the piece parts of our solution. And because we're using the best-of-breed vendors, we can basically, you're getting the advantage of best-of-breed mature solutions. But over time, it might very well be that there's a new solution on the market that we think is great. Like one solution we like right now that we're really excited about and we're testing is Zen Payroll. And I think Zen Payroll is going to be a huge company. They basically are selling payroll at half the price. And they've automated a lot of the payroll process. But that's how we think. So that's how we're thinking. In payroll, that's a company that's exciting us today. We have companies in benefits that are exciting us. in all 50 states where we can provide your benefits in all 50 states, by the way. And so every category we're constantly looking at instead of other, basically swapping out some of the things that we use if we find something that's better. That better in our definition is cheaper, faster, and better. And if we can reduce the time that you spend thinking about this, it's really good because that means your front office is growing, that means your book of business is growing, that means your company is growing, and by the way, to us, that means you're probably hiring more people and that your business is growing. And we like businesses that grow because we basically, the more you grow, the more people you hire, the more interesting your business becomes. And we love supporting businesses that are growing. And yet we don't have an incentive to sort of charge you in the wrong ways. We just charge you based on the number of employees you have. We don't basically go in there and charge you off all these hourly rates. So, our thinking in a lot of this is we help companies self-actualize and focus on what they're really great at doing. We take over the back office, which is typically not what a company gets really excited about doing. And so we turn from what used to be a boat anchor to being something positive and becomes a check. It's no longer an X, now a little green check. And that's the end of my 40 minutes of overview of what we're doing at BackOps. And thanks for the time, and everyone, thank you for coming, and people online, I really appreciate it. We have a number of questions. And please contact me either on Twitter or just send me an email, and we'll get on the phone. The way we work it is the first conversation, it will either be me or be my wife or one of the other people on the management team.
So can you answer some of the questions as they're coming in?
Absolutely. So we've got the first question. I should read them out, Rick, also?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. First question we've got here is, does the company still have access to their QuickBooks file because they might want to go into the get support and look at various get reports? And the answer is yes. You have that same access to the QuickBooks file that we have. We give you, though, read, not write, rights. So if we're going to basically be the one running the file, but you can get access to QuickBooks. You can run any of the reports. We have a subset of the reports that are accessible now on your dashboard. So we have like the top 20 reports. But if you want to go into QuickBooks, it's fine. Do we come to offices to scan and import files and bills and incorporation docs? And yeah, we have what we call scanning parties. And they're actually not as terrible as they sound. Because if they end well, they end with wine. If they don't end well, they don't end with wine. So there's a good incentive to get them to end well. We visit your office. We basically can even ship a scanner to you. We basically get it done. Because we have riveters now in about 30 states, which actually is doing a pretty good job in terms of covering the country where the companies that are interested in us are. We can physically get people in your offices that typically next day. Yes, and the next part of the question, would our vendors send invoice to BackOps, and would we, the company, approve the invoices from the dashboard? Yeah, what we'll end up doing is we set up a series of portals. In this case, it would be a vendor portal, but it's branded in your company name. And so all of the invoices in the future get redirected to this portal, but it's your brand. It's basically, Acme, backops.acme.com. And so everything basically gets sent to us. All of those, everything, once it hits our vendor portal, it hits our dashboards. Remember, data gets entered in once, it hits our system. So all of the invoices come in. We're basically going to see that. You're going to see it reflected in the dashboard on a going forward basis. Question is, same as receivables? Yes, payables and receivables, same way. Yes?
Great presentation, thank you. So are the fees you mentioned, is that like one-time fees, or are those like monthly fees, yearly fees?
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, those are monthly fees. So typically it's, if you have 6 employees of your company, it would be $1,500 a month.
Okay, and then you also, looks like you charge an hourly finance fee, $125?
Right. We charge for the finance. So what happens is a company is raising money, and there's financial due diligence to be done. or the company has to basically start building what are called rev rec models, revenue recognition models. They'll hire us to do that as opposed to hiring their own FP&A or hiring their own temp CFO. So we'll do that work, and we'll do that work on a project basis. And so the point is, we have all the data. It's really easy for us to do that work. We don't have to do any of it. We're ecstatic working with third-party temp CFOs or any third party you want. But the point is, we're there if you need a resource to do it. And we have and the beauty is, because of the way we've organized all of your data, we can do it in near real time. And it's not $125, it's an hour. It basically depends on what the task is. Certain tasks are $35 an hour. Some tasks are $250 an hour.
I have a question in regards to if you currently have like multiple systems, as a lot of startups do. When you guys come in to integrate all these systems, there's a little bit of cleanup in the back end. So how does that get built out, and how does that work?
Yeah, that comes out in the audit process pretty quickly. And sometimes it's not just a little bit of cleanup. Yeah, I mean, it's just, look, a lot of companies just grow fast, and it's a good thing. It's sort of a quality, part of this is a quality problem, in that there was so much growth or so much sort of change or sort of, innovation that maybe there was not as much time spent on the back office as there should have been. But we'll get in there, and if we basically go in there and we do a sort of an audit, and we say, there's work to do, we'll give you a proposal on how we can clean it up. And there's a cleanup process. In some cases, we have to go back into prior year history and clean it up, because in some cases, companies didn't even file taxes. So we have to basically go in and refile or file on first time. So that always comes out in the sort of initial assessment, and we'll act as your partner and just roll up your sleeves and figure it out what we need to do. It doesn't get in the way of our getting you on our new rails, though, on a going forward basis. So we'll immediately get you into our new system going forward, but then we'll create a sort of separate project which says we have to clean up the old. But it probably happens 30–40% of the time. It's okay, Sort of shit happens. It's okay. Let's see. Oh, got another one here. Are the moms and our past CFOs, controllers? The answer is yes. Everyone we hire, first of all, goes through sort of a 4-step process of getting hired, and they have to spend the first 60 days with us as a contractor, where we're basically watching over what it is we're doing, and we're making sure it makes sense. Our goal is to hire all of our riveters as employees. They might only work 30 hours a week, but they're still our employees. And so when someone hires backups, they're hiring backups. We're not an exchange. We're not connecting you to third-party firms to do the work. We're doing the work ourselves, and we're basically warranting the work. So they are past CFOs of public and private companies. Our controllers, we have a number of CPAs who are controllers. We have a number of bookkeepers. In some cases, you don't need a controller, and you shouldn't have a controller do the work. But we have qualified bookkeepers doing the bookkeeping work, and they're fantastic. And that's also how we're able to sort of price things the way we want. There's no reason to put a $120,000 a year controller on a bookkeeping task if we have an amazing bookkeeper that can get it done. HR managers they're all licensed. They've all been HR managers at private and public companies, and they have the appropriate credentials that they need. That's obviously becomes really important. The second part of your question, in compliance and with reporting. They've done it before. We know what compliance is. Our head of compliance used to run compliance at Paychex. He knows what this is all about. He's sort of seen the story before. He reminds me, time and time again what I shouldn't be doing and should be doing. And but that's an example of a resource that you have available to you, and we have these people around the country. And they're out there. These moms are all out there. They just all had full-time jobs, but they now have kids, and they don't want full-time jobs. But they want to be fully engaged with companies, and they want to basically work, but they want to turn it off at 4 p.m. and turn it back on at 7, and that's what we let them do. Yes.
2 other quick questions. So, does your fees include all license fees to Intuit and all the other people? That's the first question. And then the second question is, for Google Venture portfolio companies, are there special deals, that you guys are offering?
Yes. So Of course there are. We have what we call technology fees, and the technology fees are separate from our fee structure, and they typically will range from, and it includes payroll, it includes your QuickBooks account, it includes your Expensify account. What we've done is we've negotiated best pricing to get you all this, but this is also one of the reasons why it's in your name. See, we originally basically said we had it all included, and it was part of our fees, but it doesn't end up being much more than $100 and $120, $130 a month for a typical client for these fees. It needs to be in your credit card. That's what we concluded. It needs to be, because that way you own the data. This is very clear who owns the information, the data. So our customers were more than happy to say, we're happy to pay those fees. There is a sort of a Google Venture deal, and what it ends up doing is we typically sign annual contracts, and you get one month free. So it ends up being approximately 10% or so discount, but it ends up being a sizable discount if you basically have a number of employees. If you already have vendor accounts, another question, an account with Bill.com or QuickBooks, fantastic. We're going to inherit those. By the way, we don't have to open the accounts. We'll just get you best pricing. So we'll basically take all of your existing accounts. That way you still have access to everything that you always did, but we basically end up being your proxy.
Mark, thank you.
Sure.
It's knowing about the product ahead of time, it's still phenomenal to watch you walk through it. My last startup experience, as good as it was, this would have made it much better. Really excited to see. So thank you again for doing that. Couple of things. If your company has a product that would be broadly applicable to other companies in the portfolio, drop Ken and I a note. We would love to give you the opportunity to do just like Mark has done, a chance to tell folks what it is, how it works, and hopefully we can help the portfolio grow in terms of getting good users who are motivated, who are going to not just kick the tires, but actually help make it better and get the benefit of what those products do. We are tweaking some of the tech that we use to put these workshops on. Very eager to hear feedback from folks who have sat in on these, either here in person or online, for what works, what doesn't. Don't worry, there is no pride of ownership here in what we've done so far. A lot of this started with a really ugly, hacked Apple iMac, and has grown considerably since then, but we've got a lot of work left to do. So if you have thoughts on things that you've seen in other venues work well, please drop us a note. We'd love to hear, good, bad, or otherwise, what's worked. And if things have gone well here or things that have really frustrated you, we'd love to know what that is. In the meantime, we'll wrap up. This was recorded, will be available within the next day or so, hopefully later today. If not later today, then by tomorrow. So you're welcome to share it with anybody else in your company. Again, we'll hope to see you at an upcoming event. We've got a couple next week and then a bunch scheduled for later in May and June. So Mark, thank you again. Good luck to BackOps, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming, guys.
Yep.